Tonight on America's Dumbest Criminals, if you want to make your mark on the world, you'd better consider the price of fame. See what develops when a proud pot grower takes pictures of his bumper crop. And what do you do when you don't want to go through the expense of hiring a full-time getaway driver? Stay right where you are and watch the meter run up and time run out for these and other crooks right here on America's Dumbest Criminals.
Delta 1566, give me a call and you'll find me.
Now, welcome your hosts for America's Dumbest Criminals, Daniel Butler and Debbie Allen.
Debbie, I've got a hunch.
No, you don't. You're standing up straight and nice and straight and tall.
No, not that kind of hunch, okay? Oh. No, although if I did have a hunch, we'd probably see eye to eye for a change.
Yeah, I'd like that.
It'd have to be a fairly severe hunch, though, like bent over halfway.
All right, what's your hunch?
No, well, I'm not a betting man, but I'll wager that at some point in your life, you were voted like Miss Personality or Miss Congeniality or like Little Miss Sparkplug or something. Huh?
You're sweet. Okay, actually, yes. At one point in my life, I was homecoming queen.
Whoa.
But there were only like 15 in the whole graduating class, I swear.
And you were the only girl?
No.
No. Now, a little later, we're going to meet a guy who was definitely not voted most likely to succeed. But after his crime, he could have been voted most popular.
This is true because he was being chased by police officers, a helicopter, even canine teams.
Oh, half the town was running after this guy. That's coming up later. But right now, we're going to meet a guy who was extremely proud of his green thumb.
But there was a problem. It seems his crop of choice was marijuana. Still, that didn't keep him from taking pictures of his prized possession, but it did lead to his photo finish. Take a look.
Okay, what's wrong with this picture? Is it the thermometer displaying a cool 53 degrees? Is it the groovy space-age insulation? Or maybe it's this, a nice, healthy pot plant, hermetically sealed in a secret cultivation room. But maybe we need to look beyond the photograph and turn our attention to the photographer. Evidently, the proud gardener who took pictures of his homegrown marijuana plants had them developed at a local drugstore. And the observant clerk who developed the photographs turned them over to the Lodi, California Police Department. What more could the police want? They had multiple pictures of the evidence, a film deposit envelope with the man's name and address, even the date that the photographs were taken. Oh yeah, one more thing. The green-thumbed wizard also took a few photos of himself in the mirror on the same roll of film. Open up to me, baby. Come on, work with me here. And smile, because you're another dumb criminal caught on camera.
Now we move, though, from photography to painting. But this artist couldn't contain himself to just canvas. Instead, he canvassed the entire community, leaving his mark everywhere he went in the form of graffiti. See what happens when outsider art meets up with police science.
We were having a series of vandalisms throughout town. Tagger gangs were going through town and putting all their monikers and names and spray painting all over our town.
The taggers would leave certain names. They would spell their names backwards and they'd put little fancy drawings and symbols up. This went on for a couple months. We didn't have any clue who it was.
I'd contacted a principal of one of the middle schools here in town. He had seen me and was telling me that, hey, he had some tagging at his school up on the roof. And one of his teachers was saying, no, that can't be right. We don't have taggers in town. We don't have gang problems in town here. But then he was looking through the hallway and found an art poster from an art student in the hallway that's up for extra credit. And on that poster was all the tagging that we'd been seeing all throughout town, plus the kid's name that did it. So I went and advised Investigator Little of it. He was the one in charge of that case.
I go out and look at it, and sure enough, the same art is the same thing we've seen around town that was down the alleyways and on the back of the buildings.
And he went down and picked up the poster and started matching it to all the graffiti throughout our town.
He had several tag names, at least 20 of them, and every one of them was listed on this artwork.
And subsequently called the kid in and his parents and got the kid to confess.
He went to court and he was sentenced to go and paint over all the graffiti around town, no matter if it's his or not.
When I talked to the kid later, I told him they don't teach drive-by painting in art class.
Just signing his artwork, huh? Well, this next trio could have used a few method acting classes before they attempted this grab-and-go theft. As you'll note, the store mannequin seems more natural than these crooks.
See for yourself what the store's surveillance camera saw.
Ho-hum. We just dropped in to stroll through this nice store. Just here browsing. Not here to grab an armful of expensive shirts and run. Nothing like that. Oops. Change of plans. Run, girl, run! Let's look again. These folks couldn't have drawn security's attention any stronger if they'd brought along a marching band. Thanks to police who moved almost as fast as our criminals, these shirt nabbers were quickly collared.
In Tulsa, it is illegal to sustain a kiss for more than 3 minutes.
Well, our next melodrama involves more than a kiss. It concerns what a kiss can conceivably lead to. But this Romeo is modest, very modest. Listen to how far he goes to avoid making his intentions public.
Graveyard shift, 4:30 in the morning, we get an alarm call. Officers respond to the alarm, start checking some doors, windows. We get some indications that someone's possibly inside. A subject tries to leave out the back doors.
Police, don't move! Get your hands up, get your hands up. Turn away from me. Put your hands on the wall.
We take him into custody, and once he's in handcuffs, you start noticing that he's not your typical criminal. He starts crying. We didn't find any drugs or narcotics from the pharmacy on him. And he begins to cry uncontrollably. And we locate inside on his possession a check written out to the pharmacy. So we started to question him about this. So he tells us that he was going to get married in 2 weeks' time and just felt that he was too shy to purchase condoms over the counter. So his intentions were to break into the pharmacy, take the condoms, but leave a personal check. He may have been a dumb criminal, but he was at least trying to practice safe sex.
Okay, I don't know who was more embarrassed, the cop who had to say safe sex or the guy who stole the condoms. Debbie, do you want to comment on that story?
No, poor guy. I feel sorry for him. I think we'll just keep moving along, though, okay? And that's what the driver in our next story wanted to do, too. But he found it hard, probably because he had a police car riding right on his tail, who seemed to be suggesting that that was a bad idea. He and his buddies share center stage in tonight's Blue Light Special. 3 Tampa Bay area teenagers were on the run in this stolen car after robbing a man at gunpoint. Their designated driver is great with a gas pedal, but not so hot with a steering wheel. Maybe he doesn't have his mind on the road because he's thinking about the squadron of police cars riding his tail. When he fails to outmaneuver them, he tries adding a little camouflage. But the cops aren't fooled by a tree going 60 miles an hour. Then he tries to lose them in a cloud of smoke, but that's a no-go, and neither is the car. End of the line, boys.
Okay. Now, they seemed like pretty nice kids who came up with a pretty naughty idea, racing on city streets. But when officers came down on them with the letter of the law, the whole truth came out. Turns out these teenagers had gone postal.
A few years back, I was working graveyard shift on patrol. We had a report of individuals or cars racing in the northeast section of town. Go up there and I stop one of 2 vehicles that go screaming past me. Of course, both these cars are just loaded with college students. Spoke with the driver, chewed him out, and got the name of the other driver. The other driver and his passengers had returned to a local dorms, got hold of that driver, found the passengers also that were in his vehicle, took all those individuals down to the lobby, and in the lobby I kind of chewed them out for racing around town. Basically told them I was going to cut him a break, and I was just turning to leave when one of the passengers said, "Officer Robinson, we're really sorry for what we did, and what did you want us to do about the mailboxes?" turned back, I looked at him, I said, I was just getting to that. You know, that guy was pretty dumb because if he hadn't said something, I would have never known they'd been out blowing up mailboxes.
Here's Daniel with ADC Headlines.
The typical bank robber takes only a few minutes to pull a job, but this Baltimore man was no typical bank robber. He took the time to count his loot on site, giving police officers plenty of time to arrive at the scene. They took the unarmed man into custody, and undoubtedly the shock of their arrival made him lose count. You know, 860, 880, daggum, now I gotta start all over. Just how large was the shoplifter caught by store security? Well, she was balancing a $695 colored TV between her knees, which a clerk just happened to spot under her dress when she bent over to pick something up. Ooh, talk about your horizontal hold. I'm pretty sure she'd been using Thigh Master, you know. The police might not have noticed the man and his girlfriend who came in to bail out a friend, but they spent too much time admiring a wanted poster on the bulletin board. Yes, indeed, the fellow was looking at a picture of himself. Yeah, you know, they thought he'd got his bad side. The lighting was no good, but that little bit of self-adulation resulted in his processing. And that closes the file on ADC Headlines. News ripped from somewhere near the back of your local newspaper. Debbie?
These days you hear a lot about road rage, drivers who are so angry that they do really dumb things when they're behind the wheel. Well, this is nothing like that. In fact, aside from the fact that this guy is trying to get away from police, he's a model citizen. Here's the story from Sweetwater, Texas.
This happened on a late December evening, right at about quitting time, and we had a call of a reckless driver. Another officer showed up and was going to take me to the house, and I said, well, I'll just drive myself home and you can have the car from there. And about that time, we see the guy matching the description of the reckless driver. He had a tail light out. In pursuit, Highway 70, northbound, excess of 80 miles an hour, close to 90. Matched the description perfectly. He didn't want to stop for us, so we chased him completely out the north side of town and went probably 20 to 30 miles with him signaling every time he would go around the car. And finally the pursuit ended when another sheriff's department shot his motor out. And after it was over with and I went to transport him to the jail, the Van Halen song, Where Have All the Good Times Gone, started playing. You got a driver's license? We have one in custody.
I haven't had any.
Apparently his good times left him pretty quick that night, so that pretty much sums it up.
Real quick. You know, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better example of being in the wrong place at the wrong time than the fellow we're about to meet. If every crime was solved this easily, we'd need a lot fewer police officers on the street. Meet the crooks who've come down with a stunning case of, I'm where? You're who?
My name's Sergeant Neil Shea. I'm with the Annapolis Police Department, and you're here on Taylor Avenue in Annapolis, Maryland. And what happened was a little while ago, we get a call for a robbery of a Luskin's that's about a half a mile from here. As we're coming out of the back of the station, we look up and we hear this car come screeching into the back lot.
See your hand. See your hand. Let me see him. What's going on? Okay, out of the car, Pastor Driver. Let me see your hand.
And we look over and it's like, hey, that's the car. And we're looking at each other like we can't believe that anybody would be that stupid.
Come on out. Come on out. Didn't do anything. What's going on? Pull behind the police station. Come on out here.
And of course, everybody's sitting over here at the lot in the back, and they're looking at us like, oh, those two have lost their minds. They're going to lose their job over this. They're pulling people out at gunpoint behind the station just because it's marked no trespassing. And that was it. Everybody came in and they couldn't believe it. And what had happened is the cars responding out, the marked cars responding out to the call. He sees them turn onto Taylor Avenue where the police station is. He goes to turn around. He flips on his emergency equipment. He goes to turn around. and they see them, and they duck into the first lot, which happens to be the police station. They ride all the way past all the no trespassing police personnel signs, whip in here to the back lot, take a parking space, and decide to duck down. Oh well.
Crooks are just like you and me in one respect. We're all looking for ways to stretch our dollars, right? I'm sure that's what this robber in Ocala, Florida had in mind when he made the bold decision to hire a taxi for his getaway car. After all, cab fare has to be cheaper than divvying up your loot with a partner, right? We'll watch as this crook discovers what happens when you cut corners.
I was working a day shift, and this particular day, we happened to have a robbery at the public store out on East State Road 40. The culprit, the gentleman had robbed the store and then called a taxi for his getaway vehicle.
He just said that he wanted to go to the bank, and I informed him that the bank was closed, and he just said that he wanted to go get a check cash somewhere. I suggested Publix, and that's where he had me take him. After he supposedly cashed his check, my dispatcher kept asking me where I was.
Fled towards Ormond Beach is where he wanted to go. So we ended up at Chase, went towards Ormond Beach, ended up catching the vehicle, getting the taxi cab to stop, and then a foot pursuit, and we caught him.
I asked the guy if he was wanted for something. And he said, well, he said, I may have ate a couple of burritos and without paying for them, and I told him that they don't usually have a manhunt for a man eating burritos.
Aren't as responsible as they used to be, but we beg to differ.
Yeah, we found a clerk in Sandy, Utah, who was an absolute stickler for following company policy, even with a robbery in progress.
As you'll see, she was far better at her job than this stick-up artist was at his.
Oh, yeah. Here's this shining example of, we're not making this up.
First time I investigated a case where the robber leaves with less than he came in with. The guy enters the store, puts a loaf of bread down on the counter. He says, "This is a robbery," and shows the girl, the cashier, a gun. And she's looking around, and he tells her, "Don't look around. Just, this is a robbery, give me all the money." And she says, "I can't. I just scanned this loaf of bread, and I can't open my drawer now unless I have something to, you need to pay for it."
Come on, let's go.
So he hands her $1 and reaches in his pocket and hands her 4 more quarters. And
there.
Another employee started to come over, so I guess he was afraid and ran out the door, leaving the bread and the $2.
There.
First case I've ever investigated where a robber paid to rob a store.
Oh, come on. Well, I'm sorry, sir, but it's going to cost you $2 to rob me. If that young woman went on to become a government employee, I believe, didn't she?
Or maybe a toll booth operator.
She could. This evening is sure taking its toll on me. So, I think it's time to call it a night, but I'll be all rested and ready when we return next week with a whole mob of new dumb criminal stories.
If you've got a lead on a story, or you just can't wait till next week for more state-of-the-art stupidity, visit our website at www.dumbcrimes.com.
But just in case you've missed the point of our stories tonight, let me say it clearly. Every crime is a dumb crime.
But as long as people persist in breaking the law, we'll need to have excellent people in law enforcement like the officers you met tonight.
We thank them and others like them who work hard to bring a little order into this crazy world. And we thank you for joining us tonight.
As always, we hope that we've all learned from others' mistakes.
Yeah, but if you haven't, we just might see you next week on America's Dumbest Criminals.
Goodbye.